Hollow drill test 2. So you may have noticed I'm trying a slightly different type of clamp here. I've simplified it. The other one was a bit too complicated and the nodule didn't fit. So I've gone for a sort of three-legged piece of antler drilled through. That takes my tubular drill. And I've lashed it as tightly as I humanly can onto this nodule. Not an easy thing to do, but let's just see. Everything else is the same. Actually, I tell a lie. I'm actually using or reusing the sand that I collected from the first wooden drill experiment. So this has already been through a drilling process and it's a bit finer. The sieved sand from the beach was a little bit rough and coarse and was kind of catching the tubular drill. So let's just see. There's some water in there already. I just wanted to see if we can get this moving in any way. I have to put my foot somewhere. Good. And what I'm after at the moment is, in a perfect world, that piece of antler not moving in any way. If we can achieve that, then we have a chance. I'm being a bit tentative on the bow, just trying to build up a rhythm, make sure that the grit is fine enough. Feels like it needs more water. What I've also done is I've remeasured the copper pipe from its base, and it's currently at about, or not about, at about 119 mil. So that first experiment that went wrong, inverted commas, used 1 millimetre of copper. So we're starting again, new location, same sandstone, Mohs hardness 5 or thereabouts. I'm just going to see if we can get a rhythm going, see what effect this has. You can definitely feel it cutting. I mean, I can feel the grit and the friction. You can see some of the water and the sludge, the slurry is kind of seeping out here. But effectively, it's doing what I want it to do so far. What I'm not going to do during this process is remove the antler clamp at all. Just going to see where we can get to after a given amount of drilling time. Because to remove that, I will never get it back in the same place with the same tightness. So it's a kind of one-hit wonder. But we'll still get figures. We'll still get information on how long it takes, depending on depth. I had hoped to kind of get through this in a oneer, but it's clearly not going to have that. So we'll just keep going. Try and, we see, that's fresh sand and it's already, there we are. Oops. Still some issues and teething issues, I think. String partly. Let's try and ride this string up a bit. There we go. And let's just get some friction going. Whoops. I mean, it's all a little bit gritty, but so far, the antler clamp seems to be working. I suppose I could always dig a hole and put this all in it. That's better. Now we've got a rhythm going. And I think just pour some water down that hole. See if that makes a difference. Okay, so I think that shows the method. I'm going to stop the camera. I'm going to carry on for 10-minute sessions, and I'll come back to you after each of those sessions, do a bit more and show you what's going on. Until we get through or get very deep, I'm not going to remove this at all. So we're just going to have to kind of take a bit of faith on this. I might mark the copper tube with some scribed lines, which at least tells me when I'm getting lower. See you in a bit. Okay, so that's 10 minutes timed drilling, and what you might be able to see here is that I've marked with a file some increments on the tubular drill. Now obviously, because I can't take the antler off the stone, I can't actually look into the hole and measure the depth of the hole. So what I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to measure the polish. In other words, that's where the antler reaches here on the polish mark, and as that comes up the increments, we'll know how far the drill is descending through the antler and therefore into the stone. But obviously it's not that simple, is it? Because I've got a second measurement, which is from the end of the copper drill to the start of the pipe, which when we started this test was 119 mil. So we could just do that quickly now. And 119 mil, and we are down to 115, 16, 17, 18. So we've lost a millimetre of copper. But since we started, we've increased the depth of our drill by somewhere around 4 mil, which is interesting. So potentially that's a 1 millimetre wear on the drill and it's invisible, but we'll see at the end, I suppose, a 4 millimetre hole further into the stone. Be interesting to see how that compares. What's good is that the antler is working. It's pretty solid, and actually I can see a ring of something in the hole, but that might just be the sand build-up. So I'm going to do a little bit more, and then I'll time the next 10 minutes. Again, I'm adding this previously used sand, really feeling it with my fingers before it goes in there to make sure there's no gritty bits. And then essentially I'm flooding the antler. Actually not flooding, just adding a bit. Our drill goes in. There's a new method really with this system, which is quite interesting, because if I just try and use the drill now, I'll end up throwing the nodule everywhere. So I've just got to kind of work that in by hand so that I know it's actually running, and then hopefully we can continue. Famous last words. Yeah, something gritty in there. Right there. We'll go with that. Oh no, something very gritty in there. This is definitely an issue. I've literally just done 10 minutes of lovely drilling, and now it's not wanting to. There we go, let's try. Oh. Oh. There we go. There we are. Okay. feel it cutting. There's a fair bit of friction, obviously, on the side of the antler, but also at the base. Right, I'm going to give it another 10 minutes and get back to you. Okay, so that's the end of the next 10-minute burst. And a few things to tell you. First of all, you might be able to see just with that quick bit that it's running much better. I've found a little hack, if that's the term, where when I need more grit in the hole, I literally plunge the tube into the container of used sand and it fills. And then I'm assuming it's sort of self-feeding in there as it needs, and then I add water. So let's have a quick look at some figures. So the polish line is now back up to, let's have a look, 43 mil of polish. That's an increase from last time. And the tube length is 114 mil. 114 mil, which means that overall we've lost, what's that? 5 mil since we started. Just going to stick that back in there, add a bit more water and do a little bit. I'm changing my positions because simply because it's pretty tough on the old right knee. I'm not getting any younger, clearly, but there it goes. So I'll do a little bit more and then time the next 10 minutes. I'm not pressing down really. The pivot point at the top of the drill is just to locate it. The bow is, well, I'm now able to do pretty long strokes with the bow, which is good. There's a bit of a sort of very fine sludge appearing at the top of the antler. It's working its way up out of the hole, and really it's one of these epic tasks now of just continuing. Right, I'll time the next 10 minutes for you and come back. So there's another 10 minutes. You can see actually the socket is polishing beautifully. It's a really well polished and glossy end to that drill, which is great. The drill that supports the copper tube here is actually hazel, and it's been seasoned for a year. Hardwood tends to take about a year per inch of thickness to season, so it's seasoned. And another 10 minutes of drilling. Let's see what we've got. So the marks on the drill are still visible, my reference points, which is good. I can see if I look down the hole, there's definitely a tube of stone remaining in the middle, so it's doing what we want it to do. And let's see where we're up to on measurements. So I've got a reference mark here as well to measure from. So from here we're now down to 111 mil on the copper pipe. So that's 8 mil lost during this process. That's quite a lot, I think, for copper. I mean, that's, I'll have to compare, but it seems quite similar to the wooden drill in the previous experiment. The polish mark is up to 45. Let's just clear that there. 49 mil. 49 mil for the polish. So that's obviously not the depth that we've drilled to in the stone so far. That is the depth of stone and antler thickness. so only time will tell how far we're getting through the stone. And again, if we go back down here, it's interesting, if I look at this polish, we can see that there's a very shiny section of polish, which I'm assuming is the thickness of the antler. And then we have a much coarser, you can see where the sand grains have ingrained. Just worth a measure on there just for now, sort of 20 millish of obviously ingrained sand. So nothing much learnt from the last time I stopped, other than like all of these things, it's just an epic process. So I'm going to do a bit more. Let me show you how I fill my drill now. So basically the drill has got some sludgy stuff in there, but I'm just going to add a bit more. Just plunge it into my container of used sand. Just going to flood the hole. Not flood the hole, but actually that was flooding the hole, and just work my drill into it, pop it back in, and then really carry on. If you watched the previous video, drilling with stone and sand and friction, you'll know that this is going to take some time. I don't know how long, but let's go for another 10 minutes. Oh. Let's just make sure that's running smoothly. There we go. And there's another 10 minutes. Let's see what's going on. So, oh, that's quite interesting. So, we've got the drill. Let me get a bit closer so you can see this. I've got the tubular drill. You'll notice the string is now polishing the bit that's above the antler. I can still make out my reference marks though. Luckily that dot there is 90 mil. And let's just do a quick test. Let's get back to my reference point here and measure the polish first. So this is the polish level. So that's antler is 57 mil. 57 mil of polish. And the tube wear, the amount of copper that's actually gone, start at 119 mil, and we're down to 108 mil. So a fair bit of wear of the copper. I have to say that's surprising me. I mean, I know copper is soft, but the degree of wear on the copper is surprising me. I'll only know at the end how that compares to the hardened beechwood. But what's interesting, which I really want to show you, is what's going on in this hole. Have a look. Let's see if we can get this all off. So, down in this hole, if I can just dismantle this camera system. There we go. If you can see in there, let's just have a look in there. So the bit you can see right there is the top of the plug. Okay, so I've just inserted a skewer into the depth of the hole and dragged it against the edge of the plug, and it's come out at 24 mil. So actually, we are making progress. 24 mil might be halfway, close to halfway, maybe just under halfway. It's a slightly thicker bit of the sandstone nodule here. But that's 24 mil in the time that we've had so far. So, I'm going to turn the cameras off, go for another 10 minutes, you know how this works, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so that's another 10 minutes done. Oh, my knees. So let's see where we've got to. I might have to have a cup of tea in a minute. So, this is the tubular drill. We'll do a couple of measures from our datum point here. So we started this whole process with 119 mil of copper, and we are now down to 105 mil. 105 mil, which means we've lost something like 14 millimeters of copper from the end. And essentially, it's more of the same. I mean, I'm carrying on. Obviously, it would be great to get this finished, but I think that's a way off. Let me just see if I can get a quick measure on the skewer. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the skewer right down the side and then scraping it along the edge so that I have some reference mark, and there's a reference mark. So according to this, yes, we are 29 mils through the stone. There we go. I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'll see you in a bit. So there's another 10 minutes done. Let's see what we've got. I've been trying to keep the water flowing nicely. So let's see where we're up to. Let's just focus on that there. So our total drill length is now from copper to 101 mil. 101 mils of copper left. We started with 119, so that's an 18 mil reduction, isn't it? Let's do the polish zone next. That's interesting. We're right up to here with polish zone. So 70 mil of polish. 70 mil of polish. We're definitely making inroads. I mean, let's just focus down here again to see if I can get a telltale in there. So I'm just sticking this thin bit of balsa wood in, and the mud is the used sand, but this is the depth. Let's try and get a focus on there. This is the depth of the hole so far, and we're looking at 36 mil. I make that 36 mil. So we're down to a 36 mil hole. Going to carry on and see where we're going. I think the nodule at this point is somewhere around 60 mil thick, so we're over halfway, but obviously a long way to go. Okay, I'll do another 10 minutes and then get back to you. Okay, that's the end of another 10 minutes. There's a bit of faffing about actually in that 10 minutes, mainly because the drill depth is increasing, and so the nodule is actually becoming a little bit unstable on this sandbag, so I've had to kind of put a block of oak in here to help stabilize the whole thing. The whole thing was moving. Luckily for me, the antler wedge sort of hole that directs everything didn't move, so we're still in place there. So let's have a look at a few measures. Let's bring this up here, get a bit of focus going, and you can see straight away that actually The polish is right up here now. So let's find my datum, there it is. And let's do copper length. So we started at 119 and we're now at 98 millimeters. 98 millimeters we are. So that's a significant drop in the length of the copper. So let's have a look at the depth of the hole. Let's go back down here. I've got my faithful bit of balsa here, which I'm just going to slide in and down and move that around so that we get a clear boundary. There it is. Bring that back up here. And this is our depth of hole. So we're at 42 mil, I make that, 42 mil. So that's a pretty good increase in the last 10 minutes. I think if there's a discovery to be made, it's that the slurry, this stuff on the end of the stick here, is actually incredibly fine. I'm adding sand occasionally, but this is a super fine abrasive paste, which still seems to be doing the job. So I'm just, the difficulty now is making sure that this can spin efficiently. You can see we're very rapidly coming down to where the hazel meets the copper. I'm hoping I'll be through before that, but let's see. There. Well, welcome back. This has been another 10-minute session drilling, but I'm sure you've noticed already that quite a lot has changed. The first thing is that I've changed drills. So my starting drill was working absolutely fine, and then I realized that actually it was too short to penetrate the stone and the antler. What I'm vaguely terrified of doing is removing this antler guide, because I feel like when that's gone, the drill will wander and walk and the hole will be more like the last test when it was sort of ovate and there were loads of different cuts going on. So I've swapped that drill out for a new drill, which is just essentially longer, exactly the same technique, exactly the same materials, copper with a hazel end which fits into the pivot. And then the next thing you'll notice is that because the hole is becoming so much deeper, there's way more friction on the sides of the drill. You can see the drill here, like, you know, there's obviously, that's where it's gone through the stone, and this is actually where it's going through the antler. So the friction on that is making the entire setup unstable. So I've taken probably an hour and a half out, and I've cut an enormous piece of oak, which I'm kneeling on here beneath my cow skin. And I've taken the sandbag and I've strapped the sandbag, which is a really good clamp actually. It's a good clamp for holding an unstable or an irregular object like this nodule. I've clamped the sandbag to the oak, and then I'm kneeling on the oak. So technically, and you can see that's really rigid now. It still moves slightly, but it's way better than it was before. It's way more efficient. So let's just do a few measures. So I've obviously recorded on the drill my new datum point for measuring, and I'm recording the amount of copper taken off this drill. And what I'll do at the end is I'll just combine this drill's copper with the previous drill's copper. We'll get an overall result. So just going to do that now. I know that the copper length was 240 mil on this. Which means that we've basically lost 2 mil of copper in the last 10 minutes of drilling. 2 mil of copper, there it is, hopefully. So 2 mil of copper lost, and then let's see if we can get a depth. Got my trusty bit of balsa wood for down here, and just going to stick that down past the antler into the sludge, the slurry. and the core, the existing surface of the stone, will mark the wood. And then if we measure that, this should give us some sort of result for where we are. So we are currently 45, 46, 47 millimeters through the stone. Now on the previous test that would have been clear through by now, but I purposefully have mounted this antler on the thickest part of the nodule, the sandstone nodule. And my rough estimate with calipers is that the nodule is about 60 mil thick. So we're more than 2/3 of the way through. And I'm going to carry on. When I think I'm getting somewhere close, I'll just record the whole thing for you. You can spend 10 minutes watching. But at the moment, the rig is working much better than it was previously. It's just way more stable. So I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Okay, that's the next 10 minutes done. I have to say, I'm starting to feel my age. Even with 10-minute bursts, it's a pretty epic task. What I'm discovering is that I'm reusing the slurry that's leaking out the side. It's a very fine abrasive paste. I'm basically just scooping it back into the hole. Here's our drill. It's still generally more unstable than it was at the beginning. I presume there must be a limit, some sort of limit to hole depth compared to drill proportions and a whole host of factors. I think also, you know, just thinking logically about this, I'm trying this whole experiment by myself. And so I've rigged it up in a way that works for me, kneeling here by myself. If this was an industrial process and we were having to get through numbers of stone tools, boring holes in stone tools or even constructions, we would have a proper setup. We might have 2 bows. We might have a much longer bow in itself, much longer pulls. And I think it would definitely be worth the time and investment to set up some sort of weighted rig over the drill that descended with the drill as it cut through the stone. Anyway, that said, let's do some basic measurements just to see how the next 10 minutes have gone. So I've got my reference point here. I know we started at 240 mil, so I'm going to put that on there. And we have lost 4 mil of copper. 4 mil of copper. And let's just stick that down there. Let's get my tester stick and see if we can get an improvement on our hole depth. I'm sort of scrubbing it around to get through any slurry that might be down there. And then let's bring that up here and have a proper look. So I make that 52 mil. 52 mil. 52 mil. There we are, 52 mil through the stone. So we're probably within about 10 mil of making it through to the other side. I'm just going to look at my figures. I'll do another 10 minutes and then we might be somewhere close enough to just film the finale. Okay, it's the end of the next 10 minutes. It's interesting, I'm actually struggling, I'm sweating a lot. It's pretty hard work. I'm regretting slightly that I picked the thickest part of the nodule to drill through. However, it's all good and we'll get some interesting results, I'm sure, although my knees and my hip are not enjoying it, I have to say. So let's get our first measure gone. So we know that we started on 240 mil. So this will give us our reference for how much copper we've used. And we're on 7 mil of copper used in drill 2. for the figures at the end, I'm adding all of these second drill figures to the first drill, so we get a total of copper use. So that's 7 mil total lost. Let's go for a measure in the hole if we can. Get that. Oh, blimey, this feels like it's actually getting deeper, which is good. Good for morale. There's that famous saying, isn't there? Morale is when the body keeps moving, when the mind says it can't be done. I can't remember who said it, but somebody who's clearly been in tough situations. So we are up to, I make that 55, 56, 57 mil depth, something like 57 mil. Which means, according to my first rough estimate, we're probably somewhere close to, well, 5 mil from going through. And there, that's our next 10 minutes. I wasn't brave enough to record to the end because I still think it might take a little while. But let's just see where we're up to. My string is about to go through. I mean, there's a pretty significant hole down there. Let's do the copper measurement first. So here's our drill. I've got my reference point all the way up here. That's where I measure from, and I know that we started at 240 mil. So that means that we have taken 9 millimeters of copper. 9.5. 9.5 millimeters of copper have been used. And let's see if we can get a fresh telltale on this hole. Let's just focus in on there. There we go. So in it goes, all the way down. I'm just going to move that around so there's a wet mark. This is it here. All the way up here. There. So our hole depth is 58 mil. 58 mil. Now, I think that's close, and I think that means that I'm going to have to video the next 10 minutes in its entirety so that you can hopefully see a grown man weep when we potentially go through. The antler is just starting to loosen slightly. I'm praying it will survive to the end. So I'll stop the camera now, get myself ready, and then we'll do the last 10 minutes, see if we can pierce this rock. Right, we're off. I'm not going to talk too much, but you'll notice that I keep changing positions now. My crumbling old body is not what it used to be. But I think what always amazes me about experimental archaeology, when you try and do things in an authentic way, is just the mind-blowing level of effort required for some of these simple tasks, inverted commas. And we are so engaged, so inextricably linked with mechanization as modern humans, that it's difficult to comprehend that tasks like drilling through stone can be achieved with muscle power, with effort, with stamina. And I mean, I'm no Paleolithic person, or I'm no Neolithic farmer even. Those people were manual workers for many hours every day to sustain life, to improve their lot, to build their houses, to farm their crops, to raise their animals, to develop new systems, new methods. And I think that's what's most awe-inspiring when you actually get to grips with some of these simple experiments. Is first of all, somebody dreamt up these sort of methods using very simple thinking, really. You know, the thinking here is that you can rotate something and put something with a higher level of friction in there, like crushed sand, and it cuts through a harder stone. And they're developing these systems and it's working. But I think, as I say, we're so used to be able to press a trigger, have a hole like this achieved in 3 minutes, 5 minutes maybe, with a decent stone cutting bit. And of course it just wasn't an option. Right, I'm going to concentrate. Get into the rhythm. Here we go. If you're still watching, then you are as mad as I am, and well done. And I assume you're still watching because, like me, you are genuinely interested in how these things could be achieved. But my hat goes off to you because it's really a pretty mundane view. 55-year-old man bowing a copper hollow drill through an antler guide into a bit of sandstone, and I'm just desperate for that change in sound or vibration which tells us that we're somewhere close. Oh, blimey. More water, I think. This is the problem, is that I'm fatiguing rapidly, and we just need to have another concerted effort. Oh, there we go. I mean, it's definitely sticking. Obviously my brain is telling me that it's gone through and it's sticking severely, but there we go. I doubt it again. Just going to lift the drill, get a bit of slurry in the bottom again. Hopefully it'll cut more. The last drilling 10 minutes before this one, it didn't cut much at all. Not sure what happened. Maybe it's hit a harder bit of sandstone again. Maybe I was slacking in my effort. But this is the issue. When you add new abrasive, new sand, there are some granules in there which can really catch, prevent the drill from moving. You have to kind of break through those. There's one there. One there. Let's see. Oh, blimey. Let's just see if we can get that going. No. Okay, well, at least you're seeing part of the error and part of the issue here. If you get one large piece of sand in there, you're doomed for a couple of minutes of drilling. That's cutting though, I can hear that now. Oh, interesting. Now, that is interesting. That made a very strange noise and stopped dead. Oh, interesting. Surely we can't be through. It doesn't feel like we're through. It feels like I'm still on stone. Let's try and keep it going. something happening which is a bit awkward. I'm sweating, I'm exerting myself, my knees are in agony. The drill is slipping, the string is slipping on the copper, and I'm sure that's still stone in there. I can't feel anything else. Just try and get a rhythm. Here we go. Catching on something in there. I wonder whether we're partially through. Difficult to know until I undo everything, which is a high risk strategy because I'll never get it back in the same place. Just going to try and scoop up some of this slurry and stick it in that hole. Alexa, pause timer. Get some of this good stuff in there. I don't think that will hurt. This is the stuff that's doing the fine grade cutting. Stick that in there. Oh, sorry, camera. Right. There's grittiness. Okay, let's get a rhythm going. Definitely changed. I'm just wondering whether we are through partially even. And then it runs again. But I had this on the last experiment. If you watched the last one, I kept bowing quite a while after I pierced, just unsure. But actually it was the sound that gave it away when I watched back through the footage. Let's see where we get to. Alexa, how long left on the timer?
You have 20 seconds left.
20 seconds. Okay, there's a fair bit of fanning around though in those 10 minutes, but let's see where we got to. I'm sure there's a great deal of cutting going on there. Alexa, stop. Okay, let's see what we've got. So, we'll get a measure going here. Let's bring this up to here so you can actually see it. Get my ruler. So, we've got our reference point. So, copperware, we know that we started at 240 mil. Copperware is 11 mil. Copperware is 11 mil on that. So 11 mil on the copper. And then let's just zoom back in on the hole. See if we can get a decent depth. And that's our depth. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm knocking all the cameras. And we are on 61 mil. I make that 61 mil. Now, I'm just going to leave you and just see if I can work out what's going on in the bottom of that hole, and then I'll come back. We might do a little bit more, or we might have pierced. Let me have a look. Well, something incredible has happened. Literally, I left you and I did probably 10 more seconds of drilling, and I'll just show you what's happening. It is literally spinning, but the noise is completely different. There's no friction at all. and I'm utterly convinced that we are through. So let's just have a look at this. And behold, look what's in the end of this drill. A tube of stone. Let's see if we can get it out. That'd be amazing. Hopefully you can hear it rattling in there. Wouldn't it be amazing if it just drops out? It's not going to. That's okay, it's well in there. It's literally stuck in there. Can you see that? That's the stone. I'll extract that in a minute. But what I'm going to do is it's incredible. I've obviously got the total timings. I'm going to dismantle all of this and then I'll wash it all off, try and get the bore core out of the drill, and I'll come back and show you what we've got. But well done for watching till now. They're slightly crazy, I get it, but I'll dismantle and then I'll show you the goodness. Let's just hope it's a beautiful hole. Wouldn't that be lovely? Okay, I'll see you shortly. Actually, I just thought, really, rather than me doing this all off camera, because there's bound to be non-believers out there, I thought I'd just show you. So I've just undone the straps, the ties that keep the block and the sandbag onto the beam. So now I've just got the block is free. You can see all the sediment, all the build-up of slurry is there. I'm going to turn it over, and somewhere there has to be a hole. Oh, it's in there. So let's see if we can get all of this string off, which is tied in a million different ways. I think it's worth doing this. Otherwise people will say I just literally got a drill. Let's just try and untie that in some semblance of efficiency. There we go. Right. And now at least I can start to unravel this while you watch. Hopefully it's in focus. Hopefully it's on the right thing. There we go. Through the previous hole, the wooden drill experiment, off comes the string. I'm very excited. I mean, I shouldn't really be, should I? It's an experiment. It's taken a fair bit of effort. I can't wait to see what the actual figures are. Obviously, I'll post them at the end again on black screen, so you can pause and get what you need from those. But I'm really excited to see how it compares with the wooden drilling experiments, the Beechwood drill. So that's our antler guide, and I have to say I'm so glad I took the time and effort to produce that. So I made it from a three-prong piece of antler, and actually it sort of clamps onto any surface, if that makes sense, with a lashing. So that's the guide. Stick that there. We can clearly see a hole at the top here, slightly ovate, and we can clearly see a lovely broad hole beneath. Oh my word. And I can see how parallel that cut is. Slightly ovate at the start, I presume that's movement, but the base is so beautiful. I'm going to clean that off and come back to you. So, a couple of things to show you, which is very exciting, and this is the first thing. This is what's known as the bore core, or the drill core. So this is the piece of stone that we took out. That's the top, that's where we started drilling. See how oval it is, quite interesting. I really must look at some originals in a museum at some point and see how they compare. And the bottom is beautifully circular. But what's amazing is the stone quality. I mean, you can clearly see the striations where the sand has cut. Let me see how close I can get there. Where the sand has cut into the surface, beautiful striations. And let's just confirm this now, because that bore core is in fact, from total length, 62 mil, and that's what I thought it was with the calipers. So that's a 62 mil bore core, and here it is. And what a beauty. I'm going to take some stills as well so you can see internally. But that is a beautifully parallel drill hole. You can just see some of the striations in there which match the bore core. And here, of course, is the previous experiment 2 where it all went wrong and I reset with my antler guide. So there it is. I'll post the timings, and I might even do a little chat to just recap both these experiments. But there we are. A hole drilled through Mohs hardness 5 sandstone, producing a lovely bore core, and using a hollow copper drill. Thanks for watching. Be back soon.